Good evening, gorgeous people. How are you? I promised I would come on today and do a brief top 10 ways to cope with strong emotions, feelings of overwhelm, feelings of the loss of control. Especially, obviously, being the mama coach, I am referring to times in pregnancy and also times postpartum as parents. There are going to be many, many times of very strong emotional reaction when you are going through this transformational time. So, hello to those of you who've joined me. I'm going to quickly run through my top 10 tips, okay, on how I personally and how I also what I recommend to my clients to get through these strong emotional reactions. Now, I want to say one thing: all emotions are good. All emotions are there for a reason. It is there essentially a reaction to keep us safe, to deal with an experience that is happening to us in that moment. Now, first of all, what we need to do when we have a strong emotional reaction, point one, is actually we need to find a way to ground ourselves, to be stable, to be okay in that moment. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean breathwork straight away, but it is whatever you can do to recognize what is happening to you in that moment, and to see if you can either stand firm, hold on to something, sit down firmer in your chair. And then number two, try and anchor in a calm response. So whether that's a hand on heart, hand on chest anchor, so when you're holding yourself, just again, stilling yourself, grounding yourself, bringing yourself into the moment, okay? So quite often when we have that strong emotional response, we feel like it's all external. What we need to do is actually bring it back in, so we feel like we're more in control of the reactions, okay? So that could also be something like a mudra with your fingers, just holding on, just grounding yourself, using an anchored response. So that's a nice trigger for you. And if you use this often enough, it becomes like an automatic response when you are feeling strongly emotional. Number three is the breath. So once you have grounded yourself, you're feeling more stable, you're feeling a little bit more in control, then come to the breath, because that then is your way into triggering your parasympathetic nervous system. So that is your inner calm switch. So we're stepping out of the parasympathetic, the stress response, and we're going into the parasympathetic. Okay, so number four is name it. Naming that emotion, naming that response. Give it a name. Use the language that you have, that your subconscious mind understands. Give it a name. It takes the fear away when we say something out loud. I notice that I am feeling this. I notice that this is happening to me right now. I am feeling like this. So give it a name, okay? Using positive, reassuring language is number five. So if you can, say to yourself in those moments, I am calm, I am okay, or I am safe. Because essentially that's what we need to be feeling, right? In that moment when we're having that strong flare-up of emotions, we need to be held and we need to be safe. Our mind and our body needs to be safe. So if you're saying it with language, I am safe, I am okay, then that will be really reaffirming to you that that is exactly what you are in that moment. Even if everything else is going on around you and you don't feel it, you can bring that in, bring the chaos back in and control it in that way. Number six is self-soothing. So do what you can to soothe yourself, whether it be making a cup of tea, whether it be reaching for a nice piece of chocolate that you can just mindfully suck on for a minute, whether it's wrapping yourself up with something soft and helping you to feel held again, whether it is actually just holding yourself. Perhaps it's self-soothing by noting something down as well, grabbing a pen and paper, grabbing your phone and just writing it down in there. What's going on? Why am I feeling like this? It can help give you a little bit more clarity. And then we've got, what have we got? Then we're moving into using our senses, so having sensory awareness of being more present and in the moment. So a mindful approach is all about stilling and being present and pausing and giving yourself a little moment of peace. So you can use your senses to do that. Sensory awareness is a really great way to freeze frame any moment. So what can you hear? What is it that you would like to hear too? So what can you hear in that moment, and helping you to be in that moment and be present? And it can also trigger that moment afterwards that you think, maybe I need to put some nice soothing music on, or I need to listen to a meditation track. Anything that helps to soothe you from here, because auricular is the way that we go straight into our emotional brain, our limbic brain, via the senses. So what we hear, also what we smell as well. So that's the next thing. Think about what you can smell. And in that moment, whilst you're absorbing yourself in the moment of what you can smell, perhaps your then next step is to think, would I like to smell something that will help to make me feel better or calm me down? So do you perhaps have an aromatherapy roller in your bag that you can rub onto your pulse points and breathe it in? Or perhaps you're just wearing some really lovely perfume anyway. You can just give that a sniff. Or perhaps you would want to put some lovely hand lotion on your hands and soothe yourself in that way. So really noticing how it smells, how it feels, how calming and soothing that action is for you. And then also, the last one that I wanted to add was, I hope nobody's going to be offended by this, but also to have a fuck it attitude. Sometimes it's really, really good to have that philosophy. It's just to actually just say it. And that can really help. So if steps 1 to 9 are not really, doing much for you, cutting the mustard, then just say, fuck it. And say it about 10 times. Hopefully you're not going to insult anybody around you. Perhaps it'll help to write it down if you have got a load of people around you. Especially if you've got children. Might be worth just noting it down furiously, but get it out, okay? Say fuck it. All right, so those are my top tips. Top 10, I think. I scribbled them down in order, so I think we got to 10. But top 10 tips on how to cope and manage with those emotional moments. Remembering again that all emotions are good, and it's all about how we can ride that roller coaster as they go up and down and all the in-betweens, hanging on as we go along, and keep reassuring yourself that you are doing okay. All right, thank you so much for joining me. Any questions at all, just DM me. And my Beyond Birth Guide is up and running. That's on my website, and there's more content being added all the time. All the people that are on at the moment are really thoroughly enjoying it. I'm getting some great feedback, so it would be great if you are also on there, and you could give me some feedback too. What's this? Hello, so lovely to not label emotions as good or bad. Yeah, it is. But of course, we're taught to do that from when we were teeny weeny babies. And the way that we react to emotions is usually a learned response. But if we can recondition our minds to have a process and a way of coping and managing them, then that can be really, really useful. It's not to say that we're not allowed to be emotional. No, of course, and we must be. It's important, because otherwise if they get bottled up, that can feel worse and they can come out in other ways. So it's always good to be able to express things, but to have a process is really useful, because it helps us to feel in control in those moments when we're not necessarily feeling in control at all. In fact, we're not. All right, so lots of love to you all, and take very good care of you. Bye for now.